All right, welcome to our second quarterfinal. This is I was gonna wait till the game started to start my video, but I have received a message with Deli saying what he's thinking about for his hand, um, that we're gonna feel worried about. We want to be worried in advance. He's thinking 9934. Okay, one of the cards has to be a 9/9. This is very normal, right? Nothing weird there. Um, most 9943s have been run. Occasionally we've seen 9932s. Sure. 2598. Okay. That's the Chrono Cross card, the egg, right? That's there are 9854s and 9871s available. 25 is a not the popular choice for the backside, but I don't think it's the end of the world. All right, 6875. Now, this we're starting to get to having two cards for the same corner. 8387. That's arguably two cards for the other opposite corner. And then 7719. All right, I'm going to make a joke back. So, Deli has all my SEs, all my special edition cards I've won. And the funny thing is, if you look at the SEs Deli has won and the SEs I have won, they're all cards for the same corners. It's like Rufus 567A, which is a card for 3. That's one I won. One he won. Irvine 269A, a card for 3. Onion Knight, he won that one. 6698. What else have I won? I'm sure I've won something else. Selfie's not for that corner. Did I not win any other SEs? I might not have won any other SEs. But, it's all cards for the corner 3. And this hands he's suggesting is very redundant on corner power. So, okay. I was thinking, because I received messages saying Deli's got strange ideas here. And I thought, how strange can they be? The options are really, really restricted, right? You have to have a 9/8. So you're going to have a 9/8, XY, 9854, 9871. Okay, a 9852. Sure, 9843, whatever. You're going to have a 9/9. It's going to be a 9943, a 9932. No one's tried for a horizontal or vertical 9/9, which I think makes sense. I think those cards tend not to be that good horizontally or vertically. And the times when they're better are when walls are removed, right? If walls are removed, it can often slide somewhere completely safely as a 9/9 horizontal or vertical. And because sides interact more with walls and corners interact more with cards, so corners interact more with Same and Plus. The more you get rid of Same and Plus, the safer corners are. Though they also do interact with walls, but sides interact with more walls, and they do better when walls are excluded. I don't necessarily mean on first turn, I just mean in general. Those are the times when those cards tend to play well. So here in a rule set, one sec. Yeah, so here, a vertical or horizontal 9/9 doesn't make as much sense because walls are in effect, so that's not that hard to cover. And yeah. So we haven't seen any of that. So here we see both players run a 9/9. Maybe I misunderstood Deli's hand. Did he say 9934? I thought I read 9349. Yeah, I misread the hand. All right, so I just can't read because I saw 9934 for some reason was, oh, he's running 9349. That's weird. I thought this was like FF only. Is this more decks than I thought? I thought maybe it was last round that was FF only. It must have been last round. Okay. There were some restrictions in my head that did not make sense. That said, we can see both players went for an 878. Both players went for a 977, though Deli's more of a wheel and Yevon's more of a spear. Both players went for an 8765. I think that might be mandatory. Both players a 9-9-4-3. It looks fairly normal. Both have the 9-8 opposing the 9-9. 9-8-6-2 was a 9-8 combo I didn't mention, but they're all kind of close to the same value. I don't have super strong preferences. So, okay. Who is first turn? What are we thinking? Yevon is first turn. Is his 9-9 corner safe? No. He does have the recaps on it. It might be the plan. Probably wouldn't be where I would be intending to go. What have we seen? What we have seen is how many directions do you have a 9? Both players have made sure to have a 9 in each direction. And then the question is kind of, are any of your 9s covered? So for instance, when I say covered, I mean, is the backside of that card targetable? Deli has a 9-9-3-4. If Yevon, I guess he doesn't have a card to do this, but if Yevon were to play in 3 in a way such that 9-9-3-4 were Deli's only capture, 4-9-9-3 could combo back. Or the same idea in 9. This might be a better idea. So let's say Yevon played 7-8-3-8 in 9. I think this is not a good move because I think Yevon has kind of a down weakness. I think Yevon's going to have issues going down. But 7-8-3-8 in 9, if he can then force Deli to play 9-9-3-4 and 8, he combos back with 4-9-9-3 and is very likely either way ahead or winning. So if he started with 7-8-3-8 and 9, and keep in mind, without plus, it's very hard to set up against something you can't take immediately. Deli could play 2-5-9-8 and 7, setting up a same in 8, but we'll just assume that won't happen. So Yevon has a threat to go in 6. If Deli occupies 6, well, he has somewhat limited choices, and Yevon doesn't really have great play against them. But if Deli were to go 2-5-9-8 and 6, Yevon could play 7-2-7-9 and 3, and there'd be this 8 facing out, but Deli has trouble approaching it without walking into combos. Because if 9-9-3-4 lands in 5, Yevon has a same in 2 and a plus wall in 4. So I think Deli is kind of obliged to at some point go 8-3, 8-7, and 6 there. And that's probably sufficient. That's probably fine for Deli. Though, if you're Yevon, maybe you play 7-2-7-9 and 3, and say, I am safe in 3, and you have 2 cards to defend in 6 and 9. And that can be a decent situation, but I don't think his hand is well built to prosecute it. So that probably isn't a great idea, but it's something that comes to mind. Do you have the backsides of some of their 9s, right? Like the 9 down has a 2 the other way. If you could combo the 2, has the power just gone out in my house? It's weird. Anyways, okay. If the 2 the other way, that's never going to be comboed. But Deli has this 9-9-3-4 where you can work on the backside of the 4, and he has the 7-7-1-9. He can't really do that much with the 7, but maybe you can do a little, right? We could also consider a move, and this might fit Yevon's hand better because it likes going up more than down and left more than right. Something like 7-8-3-8 and 1, where if Deli ever plays 7-7-1-9 and 2, you always have 5-7-6-8 and 3. There's a chance something like this could have a useful effect. I think it doesn't create quite enough challenge, and Deli is actually pretty good at setting up sames against 8s if he needs it. This is the kind of move I would be thinking here, is how can I create something, not that they can't take, because they're going to be able to take things, but that if they do take, we have counterplay against all their captures. All right, Vid wants to start in 6. Yevon is a known side starter. Yevon does play with one of these 8s, but not one where he necessarily has combo play against any of the captures. Like, Deli's hand is a little uncomfortable taking it, and Yevon does have a firm recapture with 5-7-6-8 and 8, but he's somewhat committed to 4-9-9-3 and 4. And you could imagine that being a punished commitment. I don't see how it would be with these hands. Okay, this makes some sense. I should have my database open so I can start inputting games. Pop that open. All right, how would you approach this? How would I approach this? Did Yevon give up his highest power in any direction? No. So we shouldn't assume that, if something wasn't safe before, that it might now be safe, right? Nothing's going to have changed too much. The thing we've seen a lot in the stuff smokes match is corners met by corners that are still trickier to take. So, for instance, if Deli went 7-7-1-9 and 9, I did say Yevon's hand didn't really want the game to be downwards. The 4-9-9-3 is good, but the rest of the cards are clunky. 7-7-1-9 and 9. You can recapture if needed in 8. If Yevon goes in 8, he will not flip 9. So you will have choices between 6 and 4 and maybe 5. If Yevon goes in 8 with Ifrit, which is kind of the default reply, you might be able to play 6, 8, 7, 5, and 6, setting up a same in 5. Maybe has some power. I'm not convinced that does a lot, but it's an idea. So 7-7-1-9 and 9, I think, is a reasonable move. I don't think you're playing for that much advantage after it, but it seems like a very plausible way to prosecute this position. Just writing down the move. If you're Deli's hand, I think it's clear Yevon would like to go left. Deli also likes opposite corners a lot more than I do, so with that in mind, maybe 8-3, 8-7, and 3 is a kind of, I can take your card, but I can also create some challenges for you. Right? Your only capture in 2 is 4-9-9-3. Maybe we can overwork that. Your only capture in 6 is 9-6-2-8. Maybe we can overwork that. If you ever land 9-6-2-8 and 6, I could recapture my card, but I could also play 7-7-1 and 9, and that would be safe. If you play 4-9-9-3 and 2, I could recapture my card, but maybe if Ifrit is also out of your hand, I could play 2-5-9-8 and 1. Maybe I have other tools to play. That seems like a move like Deli might like more than I usually do, but it seems totally reasonable here. I have received messages. I should probably just close Discord. Hard to keep directionally balanced. So the other thing I was thinking of was, and the thing we really saw in the Evans and the Stuff Smokes match, is if you play a 9 out that they can't plus wall and you have a recapture on it, like that can just be a really powerful starter, right? So, like Yevon could have considered 4-9-9-3 and 1, but also could have considered something like 7-2-7-9 and 3, which I think Stuff sent me in a message that is what he would have done if he was Yevon, or 7-2-7-9 and 9. Nope, Deli has that one, so not there. But something we saw, and I think pretty convincingly, was that having a 9 out you can recapture is very nice for you and can immediately pose problems for the other person. This, I don't see a super like clean path for Deli to like, he plays this and he'll have obvious advantage. But it does feel like this shouldn't apply as much pressure as some of the 9x starters did. And that doesn't mean 9-9 corners, because the 9-9s have actually been really good as sweepers. It means things like 7-2-7-9 and 3 or 7-2-7-9 and 9 as appropriate have been really reasonable starters. With that in mind, 7-9-1-7 makes sense as a play from Deli. It kind of creates the same style of problem for the opponent. I don't really see any other ways to do this. One thing I like about Yevon's move is his 5-7-6-8 now kind of dominates Deli's 9-9-3-4. There's kind of like nowhere plausible 9-9-3-4 will land on the board that if you hold 5-7-6-8 till after, it won't control. I guess unless Deli plays 9-9-3-4 in 1 or 9, which maybe is then worth considering. But he doesn't have the recapture if it goes in 1, and he doesn't have the recapture if it goes in 9, so probably not worth considering. But I wonder if, I think that card's Duke, fitting, is given he's using the username Thin White Duke. I think Duke, I've never played Suikoden 3 more than the some number of hours. I don't remember how far I got. I have very few memories of that game. I have very few memories of Suikoden 4, and I beat it and actually enjoyed it, despite it being an evidently not good game. But it was a weird time. I'm getting distracted. I've been making stuff's been making fun of my videos because like every video I do, I will go, all right, what's going on here? That's not quite to my taste. This reminds me of a game from 7 years ago between so and so and so and so, or was it 8 years ago? I'm not sure. But the idea was this. Okay, let's get back to the game. But actually, I've just been distracted. Let's go talk about this. Suikoden 4. Um, and so the Suikoden 4 distraction here is I had just not played a like JRPG for a long time, and it was just really nice. Oh no, don't time on me, Deli. All right, he does go 7, 7, 1, 9, and 9. This seems a very natural move. I think Yevon probably should play 9, 6, 2, 8, and 8. I think it's just one of those situations of like, if you hold on to 9, 6, 2, 8, what are you doing with it? Like, you could imagine some move like, let's say, I didn't realize Yevon had coverage of this in 8, that he had the plus wall in 8. I completely missed that. So I thought this was a better move than I now think it is. Let's pretend Yevon does not have the plus wall in 8. Let's just pretend that for a moment. Apologies for my miscalculation. If you're Yevon and you play something like 5, 7, 6, 8, and 1, which you would not do because it has the plus wall in 8, but you play 5, 7, 6, 8, and 1, and you're like, yes, my 9, 6, 2, 8 now has a purpose. It can retake 1. What's going to kind of happen is your opponent will play around 1, not really touching it. You'll hold on to 9, 6, 2, 8 because, oh boy, now my 9, 6, 2, 8 has a purpose. And then at the end of the game, your 9, 6, 2, 8 will land in 2 or 4, and it will flip 1 back. And it won't flip anything else, and you will tie or lose. And you kind of. There was some recent game that was a good example of this. I think it might have been Deli's win last round. But there are situations where, see, I'm doing the reminded of thing. Now I'm too self-conscious of it. But there are situations where each of your cards is kind of good in one square, or it's good in one direction from one square, and it's like important to have that direction. If you play 5, 6, 7, 6, 8, and 1, okay, your 7, 2, 7, 9 can sort of perform the same duties, but it actually is the same problem. You're going to hold on to one of them to control those two squares, but both of them are somewhat unlikely to be able to have a second capture. They're really just going to take that back and have trouble doing anything else. And you don't want these squares on the board where you have just enough play that you'll leave them open, but just little enough play that when you hold on a card to play there, you're actually setting yourself up to lose or barely tie a lot of endgames. You don't want squares like that. So in a position like this, I would look at 9, 6, 2, 8 and be like, this is the problem with my hand. This is the card that I think has the least play right now, and I want to find a way to use it, and I'd rather play it than play something that would set it up. Because nothing that sets it up will ever mean it's good in 4, 5, 6, 8. It'll be good at capturing something at the top of the board. And I think that's just such low value right now that playing something at the top of the board to give it that capture is asking for trouble. And if I was going to go in 1, if you said you have to go in 1 here, I would put 9, 6, 2, 8 in 1, right? I would be saying I want Ifrit out of my hand. I also think Ifrit and 7, 2, 7, 9 are doing almost identical jobs here, except that 7, 2, 7, 9 can recapture 7 from 8 if needed, and has some more potential to beat things to the left. I don't think taking 9s facing down is going to be as relevant. Now, I might be wrong. It might be that both these cards are bad, and you should be looking for a way to get rid of both. Okay, Vid's an insane person. I've received a message saying 9, 6, 2, 8, and 4. I guess the point is Deli has given up his capture in 8. That's not insane at all. All right, I'm just analyzing this really badly. I both missed that Yevon had a plus wall in 8, and also that Deli does not have a threat in 4. In 8, now that he's used his card. So Yevon created much more serious challenges than I thought after this starter, because this is definitely promising. You have lots of options in 4. I just missed this. I decided today, I've been missing way too much in my analysis. I'm going to take this more seriously. And I've been kind of like flustered thinking about Triple Triad recently. Like the brain's not really clicking with it, which is fine. I've been working on chess, and the brain has also been a little flustered with chess, but that's like months of hard work adding up to being exhausted. Uh, but I wasn't supposed to be missing things like this today. This was the kind of thing I was supposed to be getting back on board for. But yeah, Yevon can block 4. And if he does, he should probably use 9628 or 7297. And that could be a dangerous position for Delhi. Specifically, I see why Yevon wanted to use 9628 there, because 7279 can cover whatever Delhi puts in 4. I think something interesting about Yevon is he has been tremendous in tournaments in basically winning every round. He does play in 4. Basically winning every round until he faces someone I think he'll beat, and then he loses. And so I predict Yevon terribly. He is a very good player, and sometimes clearly things click cleaner than other times, and I don't identify those situations well. But this is promising. Yeah, Delhi doesn't have 8 naturally. Now Delhi could think I'm just building a wall here, right? You play something like 9934 or 8387 and 8. Let's say 9934. And if Yevon is not going 4993 and 6, then Delhi's probably doing well, right? If Yevon goes, in 1, Delhi goes 5, there won't be combo play against 5. Delhi will be up 6-4, and he'll have a bunch of cards that are safe. And yeah, like that should be pretty pleasant for Delhi. So I think the critical line, if Delhi goes 8, is Yevon goes Ifrit and 6. That should be uncontroversial, making it 6-4. Now, if Delhi could play 8387 twice, he could play it in 5 and use it as a same. Play it in 8 and then same with it in 5. But if he plays it in 8, Yevon has the option of going 4993 and 5 as well as doing it in 6. And so let's say 9934, just to keep it simple, in 8, 4993 and 6, and now you need to find a tie for Delhi. Is there a tie? Well, 8387 and 5 makes it 5-5. But I am worried that you lose to 7279 and 576 in 3, and 5768 sweeps you on the top. But I don't think it does, because you have 6875 and 1. So 9934 and 8, 4993 and 6, 83875. I think that should tie. Okay, so I think 8 is probably a tying path. You can also go in 1 here, right? You could play 9934 and 1. And say anything you put in 8, I have a double capture in 5. Why would I go in 8 when I can force you to interact uncomfortably with stuff? My guess is that's scarier, though. I think if Delhi goes 1 and Yevon goes 6, that is a harder defense than 8 and then 6. But if I've miscalculated something in the 8-6 line, that could just be dead for Delhi, right? There could just not be a move there. But my basic idea is 8, 6, 5. If they go 1, you can go 3, right? If it's easy to take. If they keep 7279, you can go 3. That card can't take 5 and it can't take 3. If they keep 5768, then you can go 2 with 6875, and the 5768 does not sweep that. If they go in 2, they don't flip anything, so you can at the worst go in 1, but 3 works as well. And if they go in 3 with 7279, then you can play 6875 and 1, and their 5768 somehow can't take anything. And if they go in 3 with 5768, then you just go 2 and their 7279's dead. So I think 865 is a clear tie, and there might be other moves to look at there, but I think that's a clearer tie than something like 1 and then 6, because you can kind of get the same setup, right? If 1, then 6, then you go 6, 8, 7, 5, 8. And now they go 7, 2, 7, 9, 5. And I think you don't have a good way to dodge 5, 7, 6, 8 at the end. I might be wrong, though. I might still just hold. Maybe you just go 3 with 8, 3, 8, 7. You're fine. So I think there's probably lots of ties here, but I also think this is uncomfortable. And every line I've calculated, it's really easy to have gotten something wrong. And if you get something wrong, the game's over. And because all the lines are a little vague, I think this is actually a pretty dangerous situation. If any of these lines were, I go 8, they have to go 6, and then I go 5. Now, I think that one's the cleanest. But like if you go 1 and you calculate the line with 6, there are a lot of other plausible replies to 1 besides going in 6. And so like if you calculate out that line and then feel kind of like maybe I missed something, it's I think easy to get in trouble here. This is a 7-minute game, so I think there should be enough time to identify one of what I would guess are multiple holds. You know, stupid solver will say like there's a tie in 2 and then another 2 ties in 3 and obviously 5 ties, but like humans are very likely to go in 1 or 8. But Deli doesn't really play like a human. He doesn't play like the solver either necessarily. He plays like something kind of different. But I do think all the standard moves here probably do hold. So despite the fact that I think this is an easy position to get freak out, you probably end up on a normal move, and the normal moves probably hold. I think that's my like overall evaluation of the position. Is this is unpleasant and bad for Deli? Definitely favors Yevon. He's done a nice job finding pressure here. And it's very hard to get a win on this set. So also like all you can do is find pressure. Like I can't like ask Yevon to do more than this. But it does seem probably like okay. So like I said, Deli is a very normal player who only makes moves in normal squares and never you know leaves you on your toes. All right, so I did put into the solver, and the solver of course does say there were many ties in 3. There were 3 ties in 3, and also everything in 1 did tie, and 9, 9, 3, 4, and 8 tied. Now I might have put the rules in wrong, and I wish now I hadn't checked the solver. I apologize for doing that. Really changes things. I won't check further, but apparently Yevon is now winning. So the question is, what did Deli see here that made him think this was good? And what is Yevon's actual win? My guess is it's 1 or 8. I'm not going to check. I'm going to get rid of that window. I'm going to list the move I already did. So the first thing I would check is 8. Which card would you put in 8? Well, I think we want 5, 7, 6, 8 for 1. And I think we probably want 4, 9, 9, 3 in the endgame. But it's not clear if 4, 9, 9, 3 is actually better than 7, 2, 7, 9 for this endgame. But it probably is. So, okay. Let's start with 7, 2, 7, 9, and 8. You're down 6, 4. If Deli goes in 6 with something other than the 9, 9, you play 5, 7, 6, 8 in... No, sorry. There's a lot of lines to check. All right, I do think you need to keep the 5, 7, 6, 8 if you're going to go 8. And 4, 9, 9, 3 has to be better than 7, 2, 7, 9. Okay, 7, 2, 7, 9, and 8. Let's say Deli goes 6, 8, 7, 5, and 6. Then you can play 4, 9, 9, 3, and 3, making it 5, 5. But your 5, 7, 6, 8 doesn't sweep. They can block 1 there. All right, so this was the kind of line Deli saw. Is if he goes 8, if you go 8, he can go something like 6. and you don't quite sweep him. This looks very similar to the endgames I was looking at in the other moves, but for some reason this one doesn't work. So I guess the more likely try is 5, 7, 6, 8, and 1. 5, 7, 6, 8, and 1. Now, if Deli plays 2, 5, 9, 8, and 2, that makes it 6, 4 again. Well, looks like ties. All right, I've just received a message. My phone popped up with 7, 2, 7, 9, and 6 here. That seems unlikely to me. Hmm. So this is one of those moves that I think, I mean, I think I put the stuff in right. I think this does lose, but it's not at all obvious to me why or how it would. It looks like it leads to a lot of endgames where Deli can just blank the 5, 7, 6, 8. Ah, this is exciting. Where is the move? 7, 2, 7, 9, 8, 6, 8, 7, 5, 6. All right, I'm going to check not what the answer is, but if I evaluated that line correctly. So I don't waste more time on it. Yeah, that is a tie. So 7, 2, 7, 9, 8 ties. And if 7, 2, 7, 9, 8 ties, then I think 8 has to be a tie. Right? I guess actually 4, 9, 9, 3 beats 6, 8, 7, 5, right? If we play 4, 9, 9, 3, and 8, no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Because if they go 6, 8, 7, 5, and 3, we still don't actually. 7, 2, 7, 7, 9, and 3 is still met by 9, 9, 3, 4, and 1, and 5, 7, 6, 8 somehow blanks on the final turn. So I think the win is not an 8. I don't really get the idea of 6. I couldn't get 1 to work. Maybe it is 6. I was thinking maybe you can go 6, but take 9 to specifically force 6, 8, 7, 5 out of Deli's hand. But forcing 6, 8, 7, 5 out of Deli's hand, like the whole problem with 8 is Deli is going 6, 8, 7, 5, and 6. It is not that beneficial to force that card out of his hand. Oh, there's the plus wall. There's a plus wall in 6. Deli is walking into combos. Okay, so how can you leave 6 open such that you win later? That must have been what stuff meant, because there is this plus wall in 6. Ah. Still not obvious to me. He goes 49931. Has he found it? There's a chance. There's a real chance. This was where I was about to head, but I wasn't sure. Yevon has been super precise in this tournament so far. Now if Deli goes 8, Yevon can land 7, 2, 7, 9, and 6. And he will flip 2 cards. He's currently down 6, 4. He will be up 6, 4. And Deli doesn't have captures. The 5, 7, 6, 8 will sweep that endgame. Deli can't go 8. This might be it. If Deli has to block 6, well, if Deli plays 9, 9, 3, 4, and 6, then Yevon has combos everywhere, right? 5, 7, 6, 8 as 3 and 8 with huge combos. And so Yevon can probably just play 2. He might be able to do the combos immediately, actually. You probably can. But I think most fun is 7, 2, 7, 9, and 2. Ooh. Yeah, this plus wall in 6. That was what I completely missed. And I fear Deli missed it too. This is an incredible win from Yevon. I think this is probably it. This is not it. All right, what was the win? The win was 8? Wait up. Wait up. The win was 8. I wonder if anyone watching got this, because I didn't. Alright, you go 8. Oh, but you go 8 flipping 9. I'm an idiot. That forces the stupid egg to go in 6. And then you play 7 2 7 9 and 4 9 9 3 sweeps. That makes so much sense. Oh, bad job by me. Alright, but I didn't see why this tied. I just saw it tied. I think you can't go 8, and you can't die to 6. And you can't put 9 9 3 4 in 6. I guess you put one of the other cards in 6? Okay, 6 8 7 5 and 6. That was my tie in a previous variation. 6 8 7 5 and 6. That is also not weak to 9, which is important. 6 8 7 5 and 6. Does this hold? If 7 2 7 9 and 8, you're still up 6 4. You can play 9 9 3 4 and 3 and you tie. If 5 7 6 8 and 8, it's 5 5, but you can play 3 and you tie. If 2, then you can go 8. There's no combos. And if 3, you can go 8. Yeah, it's got to be 6. I'm gonna check because. Oh, that's not the move I made. All right, so multiple cards in 6 ties. 6 8 7 5, but also 2 5 9 8. Man, I got this game horribly wrong. This was supposed to be my I can prove to myself I can still think, but yeah, Deli finds not the one I would have found, but one of these ties, and Deli will just barely sneak by. I was oblivious to this 5 7 6 8 and 8. I forgot that like flipping 9 could be useful. I just thought, but they're gonna flip back when they go in 6. That's a really easy mistake to make. I'm gonna check the Discord because I am receiving messages from multiple people, and I'm curious if anyone saw 5 7 6 8 and 8 because yeah, I got really focused. Like at first, I thought the only plausible card in 8 is 7 2 7 9. I didn't realize flipping 9 was relevant, and then I saw 7 2 7 9 is this plus wall in 6. It must be about setting that up, which Yevon's move looked really good for. But this didn't work because 6 can be blocked. Very tricky game. One of the ones where a player is winning, but so for the record, Vid didn't say what card should go in 8, but it does seem like Vid did find the win, showing that, some players are good. Not me, but some. All right. Of the people sending messages, oh, well, Seto told Vid. Okay, so Seto is good. That's fine. Um, yeah, all right. Well, Seto is per usual, the best of the calculators. Maybe that's the real lesson today. Seto should play more tournaments. He calculates very, very well and very quickly. I think I've been particularly off recording this round. And maybe it's that same plus wall is really confusing for me. But I think I think I had stayed in form or in some form for a while not playing. I think maybe we're leaving that point. Maybe I'm gonna be out of form now, and hopefully not. Hopefully I can still do good commentary, but I'll just get things wrong more. That's all right. Yeah, Vid was trying to make the combo in 6 work. Of course he was, Combo player is going to be combo players. Well, Seto's just going to calculate everything exactly perfectly with no errors ever. Very obnoxious. Though, for what it's worth, Seto doesn't play like a computer at all either. Seto and Deli, very original players. Alright, so a very narrow escape from Deli. As he's been saying recently, honoring the great Phil Hellmuth, he can dodge bullets, baby. And he has dodged bullets again here, though I think this was not obvious for Yevon to win, as shown by my utter confusion throughout the game. But very dangerous, very dangerous. I think, and I supported it, but I think the move in 9 was not so good, but then Deli could play moves in 1 or 8, and the solver will tell you 3 as well. But like 9, 9, 3, 4, and 1, or 9, 9, 3, 4, and 8, I think we're not so uncomfortable. I thought 8 was the more comfortable. I'd have to mess around with the solver a bit, or actually use my brain to figure it out better. But I think 9, 9, 3, 4, and 8 was the way to make a normal tie here. But Deli is never the one to make a normal tie. Deli will complicate. And I almost bit him here. A really strong play from Yevon, despite missing the win. Turn 5 wins are hard for us that aren't, Seto. So, yeah. Tricky first game. Now, I haven't thought too much about counterhands this rule set, but I'd like to try to talk a little about them here. Which is to say, if you notice, say that your 9-9 lines up well against their 9-9, and you think they might run it back, then you want to find a way that forces that exploit. For instance, it might look like both. For instance, the Ifrit works well against Duke, right? Ifrit has that plus wall. So if you can put an 8 to the left in 9, then it's going to be really hard for Deli to take. We might be able to set up enough sames it doesn't matter. He's got 2, 5, 9, 8, and 6, 8, 7, 5 synergy. But I would start looking for, what are the 8s I can use? And when the last times I was playing tournaments, I was really, I think, good at doing this during the game. Of what are the high numbers that their hand has unpleasantness with, and how could I change my hand construct to make those difficulties for them? So, for instance, just looking from Yevon's perspective, because Yevon had first turn here, so it was the one we kind of thought about it from. Deli has a 9 in each direction, but we have combo play against his 9 to the right. So if we can put out 8s to the left, his 6, 8, 7, 5 covers some, but 8s to the left in 9 might be something we're looking for. What 9s can Deli take? Well, Deli can take 9s to the left from 9, 9s down from 1, 9s up from 7, and 9s down from... No, 9s up and down from 1 and 7, because he has the 8, 3, 8, 7. But cannot take any 9s up and down, for instance, on the right side of the board. So if your hand was, for instance, built to have Ifrit as a starter, Deli's hand might be very unhappy with. Right? That might be something Deli's hand has a lot of trouble dealing with. Or, no, that's probably kind of the one. Is if the hand was built to support Ifrit, Deli might have trouble attacking it. Maybe Ifrit in 9 would have actually been a starter worth considering. I did not consider it. They're probably on to their next game by now. No, they are not. But, yeah, that was a very dangerous one. Now, Delhi's probably the one that should change hands, right? After that disaster. So again, I think now you'd look for difficulties in Yevon's hand. Let's go back to it so you can kind of see Yevon's hand. Yevon's hand is the cards in 7, 8, 4, 1, 3. 1, 3, 4, 7, 8. So this L on the left, and then the card in 1. If you're looking at that hand, what can it not take? Nines. Now, it can take the nines on the top, going left and right, and it is good against eights going left as well on the top. So it's hard to get stuff to work on the top. So what about on the bottom? What can that hand take on the bottom? Like, let's say you played a 7-9 in 7. That looks really uncomfortable for your opponent to deal with if you have the recaptures. What if you play a 7-9 in 9? Nope, 5-7-6-8 covers that. So I might be thinking a 7-9 or an 8-9 or a 6-9, But given Yevon's hand, if you look at it, has a 9 down and then the second highest number is a 7, I think a 6 down, a 6 up is less valuable because it can be taken. Sorry if I'm getting some of the stuff reversed. But I think in the square 7, if you have a 7-9 or an 8-9, that could be really difficult for Yevon to deal with. Especially if you switch to Ifrit, right? If you both run Ifrit, then suddenly your Ifrit will sweep their Ifrit, right? And that might be real pressure, because they also, Yevon's hand doesn't have great play. That has some play against Ifrit. Yeah, it has the 7-8-3-8 to combo back. So maybe that's not the way to have the combo, but I really like the idea of a 7-9 corner in 7, and your threats just to go in 4. And what we saw this game was a lot of the corners are tough to take, and your threat is to go next to it if they don't have the power to take it, and it's easy for them not to have the power to take it. All right, hopefully they play again. But I think the goal here, and especially on a rule set like this, even though that game didn't show this, but this is a quite drawish rule set. In 7 games between Stuff and Smokes, there has been 1 winning position. There's been 1 winning position here, but that's 2 winning positions out of 8 games, which is a quite low rate. And there have been some real advantages, and nothing's led to a win. This is not to say it's too drawish or anything like that. It is just to say, sorry if my chair is really squeaky if that comes through, but it is a rule set with a tendency towards draws. And also you have time to think on your opponent's turn. And I think a really useful thing to do is just map out where hand advantages are. Now, is Yevon a hand changer? I don't know. Is Delial a hand changer? Not usually, but on the other hand, I just made a video arguably criticizing him for this, so maybe he is now. Let's look at the last round. Deli Tezuka. He uses the same hand game 1 and 2, and game 3, switches it up a little in game 4, stays with the switch in game 5, stays with the switch in game 6, goes back to the original hand to win it in game 7. Is that true? Was that the original hand? No. Goes on to a newly slightly modified version in game 7. But they're all little tweaks, right? He's not taking the hand and rotating it or making some big change. He's saying, I like most of these cards. I'm going to switch up 1 or 2 at a time. He's going to make small changes. So if you target what his hand currently is, the small changes might dodge you, but the change needs to adapt to exactly what you're switching to, right? He's not switching to a whole different hand where you have no reason to believe it would happen to be weak against this exact 9-7. So I think you probably in this spot do want to try to target Deli there. And Yevon, on the other hand, game 1, he plays that hand, okay. Game 2, he switches. after a tie. Game 3, he comes back to the first hand. Game 4, he sticks with that first hand. Game 5, he sticks with it again. And game 6, he switches back to the second hand. Unless I'm misreading. So what I'm seeing from Yevon is Yevon will come with multiple hands prepared and will switch between them depending on how he feels. Delial will come without any hands prepared. He will pick a card of cards he likes, and depending on how it goes, he may start tweaking a card here or there, but will usually stick with the general gist of the hand. So, from my Delial perspective, if I'm making slight tweaks to the hand, I'm expecting there's a good chance Yevon switches off it entirely. Now, there's also a good chance Yevon runs this hand multiple more times, though not necessarily in the next game. So maybe the perspective from Delial is, if I saw a problem, like maybe I didn't like how I could react to that starter, maybe you make a slight tweak just to make sure, okay, now I have a little more coverage of that starter. I won't get in trouble there again. Though it also depends how dangerous you thought the game was. Maybe you didn't think it was dangerous, and then you probably don't move at all. But maybe you find a slight tweak that specifically says, hey, I want more stuff that can deal with the 7-8 corner there. I want to be a little better directed towards that exactly, just so I don't have the same problem twice. If you're Yevon and you've built your pre-made hands, you have a few planned hands, I think you look for the hand that, like, for instance, has a 7-9 for 7 or an 8-9 for 7. Or you look for the hand that, like, has Ifrit but supports Ifrit, right? Because Ifrit was almost a really powerful starter this game. Though I didn't realize at the time. So maybe you take this hand and tweak it to better support Ifrit, or maybe you switch to a different hand that can better attack what you're facing. But I do not, if you look at the next hand and you think Delial's hand has these corners pretty well covered, you do not switch to it, right? If you have built two hands and this one's the better matchup and you're Yevon, you should stick with this hand. All right, I'm gonna pause this recording. Oh no, I'm gonna end this recording. Long game. All right, if they play again, maybe we'll record that separately. Maybe I'll be at dinner. We'll see.